What if the greatest threat to Rome was not an enemy army, but the emperor himself? Not a foreign invader, not a barbarian king, but a man born inside marble walls, raised by philosophers, and worshipped as a living god. And what if the only person who could stop him was a woman history almost forgot? On the night of December 31st, 192 AD, inside the imperial palace of Rome, a woman named Marcia held a cup of wine in her trembling hands. For nearly 10 years, she had performed this same ritual. Same cup, same emperor, same silence. But tonight was different, because minutes earlier, she had discovered her name on a death list. At dawn, she would be executed, and the man she had served faithfully had signed the order himself. There are moments in history when entire empires stand on the edge of a single decision. This was one of them, because the man who ruled Rome was no longer behaving like a ruler. He believed he was a god, and gods, he believed, did not answer to mortal laws. His name was Commodus. He was the son of Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, a man remembered for wisdom, discipline, and restraint. Marcus Aurelius had spent his life writing about virtue, about mastering one's impulses, about the responsibility of power. He tried to pass those lessons to his son. But history would remember Commodus not as a philosopher, but as Rome's most dangerous illusion, because long before he wore the crown, the signs were already there. As a child, Commodus grew up surrounded by obedience. Servants anticipated his every need. No request was denied. One day, when he was still young, he entered his bath and found the water unsatisfactory. It was a small inconvenience. But Commodus did not see it that way. He demanded punishment for the servant responsible. Those around him hesitated. He was still a child. He did not yet possess the authority to carry out executions. But they understood something more important. One day, he would. So they staged an illusion. They made him believe his order had been obeyed. And Commodus was satisfied. Not disturbed, not remorseful, satisfied. It was not the act itself that frightened those around him. It was the absence of hesitation. Marcus Aurelius saw the problem. He surrounded his son with tutors. He brought him on military campaigns. He exposed him to the burdens of leadership. But discipline cannot be forced into a man who does not want it. When Marcus Aurelius died in 180 AD, Commodus was only 19 years old. And from that moment forward, there was no one left to restrain him. Rome did not receive a guardian, it received a performer. Commodus did not want to govern. He wanted to be admired. He wanted to be seen and worshipped. He became convinced that he was the reincarnation of Hercules. He ordered statues built in his image, dressed in lion skins, holding clubs. He altered Rome itself to reflect his identity. He renamed the months, renamed institutions, even renamed Rome after himself. To Commodus, Rome was no longer a republic of citizens. It was a stage, and he was its star. But admiration from statues was not enough. He needed an audience. So he entered the arena. The Colosseum, where trained gladiators fought for survival, became his theater. Commodus fought hundreds of staged contests. His opponents were carefully selected. Some were weakened, some were unarmed. The outcome was never in doubt. And each appearance came at a staggering cost to the state treasury. Rome was paying its emperor to watch him pretend to be invincible. But the greatest humiliation fell upon the Senate. The most powerful men in Rome were forced to attend, forced to praise him, forced to chant rehearsed declarations of loyalty. They did not dare remain silent, because silence could be interpreted as disapproval, and disapproval could be fatal. The historian Cassius Dio, who witnessed these events, described the unbearable tension. Men who had commanded armies reduced to actors in another man's fantasy. Their survival depended not on wisdom, but on performance, and the performance never ended. Inside the palace, Commodus created a world where loyalty was enforced through fear. Hundreds of attendants existed solely for his service. He rarely attended to the affairs of state. Advisors governed in his place, while Commodus focused on spectacle. Power, to him, was not a responsibility. It was a tool for control, and control required constant demonstration. He humiliated officials publicly. He imposed arbitrary punishments. He blurred the lines between emperor and entertainer. Rome had become an empire ruled by instability. But the greatest danger was not his cruelty. It was his paranoia. In 182 AD, his own sister Lucilla became involved in a conspiracy against him. The attempt failed, And something inside Commodus changed permanently. He no longer saw threats as isolated events. He saw threats everywhere. Lucilla was exiled and later executed. His trust in others dissolved completely. Friends became suspects. Allies became targets. Lists of executions grew longer. Entire families disappeared from public life. The message was clear. No one was safe. Not senators. Not relatives. Not even those closest to him. For 12 years, Rome lived under this shadow. The empire still stood. Its armies still marched. Its cities still functioned. But its soul was exhausted. Because power without restraint becomes something else entirely. It becomes fear. And fear spreads quietly. Until one night, it reached the imperial palace itself. On December 31st, 192 AD, Commodus prepared for a symbolic event. The next day, he planned to appear in the arena again. Not as emperor, but as a gladiator. It would mark the beginning of a new year, and in his mind, a new era. He saw it as transformation, but others saw it as collapse. That night, Marcia discovered the truth. Her name was on the execution list. So were the names of others close to him. There was no explanation, no trial, no warning, only certainty. By morning, they would be gone. Marcia faced a reality shared by countless victims before her. Obedience would not save her. Silence would not save her. Nothing would save her, except action. She understood Commodus better than anyone alive. She knew his routines, his habits, his expectations. She knew he would drink wine after his bath. He always did. And tonight that ritual became her only chance. She prepared the cup carefully, the same way she always had. Nothing appeared unusual. When Commodus emerged, he accepted it without suspicion. He drank. At first, nothing happened. Then, his body reacted. He grew weak. The illusion of invincibility began to crack. But Commodus was strong, stronger than expected. He did not die immediately. And that created a new danger. If he survived, there would be consequences. Severe consequences. Marcia and her allies had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. There was only one path forward. They summoned Narcissus, a wrestler, a trainer, a man who had worked closely with Commodus. He entered the emperor's chamber quietly. For the first time in 12 years, Commodus was vulnerable. Not in the arena, not in public, but alone. He was no longer Hercules, no longer a god, just a man. Narcissus acted quickly, and within moments, the reign of Commodus ended. He was 31 years old. The emperor who believed himself immortal died like every ruler before him. Mortal, fragile, temporary. The Senate responded immediately. Statues were removed. His name erased from public monuments. Rome itself was symbolically restored. But stability did not return easily. His death triggered chaos. Within a single year, Rome would see 5 different emperors. The damage Commodus left behind could not be undone overnight, because tyranny does not end when a tyrant dies. Its consequences linger. And Marcia, the woman who made the decision that changed history, did not escape that truth. In 193 AD, she too was executed during the political turmoil that followed. Her act had ended one reign, but could not stop the storm that followed. History rarely rewards those who stand closest to power. But her decision mattered, because it proved something Rome had forgotten. Even emperors can fall. Commodus believed he was divine. He reshaped Rome in his image. He demanded worship. He demanded obedience. He demanded belief. But belief cannot make a man a god, and power cannot make him eternal. In the end, Commodus was not remembered as a hero, not as a protector, but as a warning of what happens when absolute power is placed in the hands of someone who sees himself above humanity. Because Rome did not fall that night, but something inside it did. The illusion that emperors were untouchable. And sometimes it only takes one person holding one cup to remind the world that even gods can die.